Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts College Football Podcast, your ticket to all things college football. Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? Join us as we talk college football from the national championship to college rivalries to bowl games to the Heisman Trophy to which conference is the best. We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between.
What is up? Welcome into the GSMC Football Podcast, the College Football Edition. As always, for the College Football Edition, I am your host, Tom Doherty. This podcast is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. We're going to be talking a lot about Josh Rosen today. I don't know if you guys heard, but he opened his mouth yesterday. So first segment, Josh Rosen, this one's for you. Second segment, we're going to be talking about the Clemson defensive line and the fact that they all decided to stay together this year, as they were one of the most vaunted defensive lines in college football last year, and they decided to all stay and play together one more year, seemingly at Clemson, going for that national championship, as they were not able to get one after that 24-6 loss last year to Alabama in the semifinal game of the college football playoff. And then in the second to last penultimate segment, the third segment, we'll be going over some more Alabama news. They did go to the White House over this week, and then also maybe some more draft stuff. And then on the last segment, I'll figure it out as I go. Whatever comes to my mind in this last segment, probably rant some more about the draft and the fact that Sam Darnold is better than Josh Rosen, and is probably the most for the NFL, that is. And I think Josh Rosen just likes to talk and talk and talk. But we'll get to that right about now. So Josh Rosen yesterday came out and said that he is the best quarterback in this draft, and the fact that he will have the most Super Bowls in the. I mean, it's just great to have confidence. I know when you start talking about Super Bowls, though, I'm just like, ugh, bro, you haven't even had a snap yet in the NFL. You haven't even gotten behind center yet. You haven't even seen an NFL pass rush. You haven't even gone to your first day of training camp. You haven't even been drafted. You haven't even been taken by a team. You don't even know where you're going to play. What if you get drafted by the Bills? Or, I mean, no offense to the Bills, but I don't see you getting past Brady anytime soon. I mean, are you going to wait till Brady leaves or something like that? What if you get drafted by the Browns? The Browns don't know who they're going to pick. Do you think you're going to lead the Browns to 6 Super Bowls? Friend, Mr. Rosen, Joshy, however you want to call you, pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. I mean, it was all over your sporting world yesterday that he was coming out with his comment. It's great to have confidence. I know that he says it's good to have confidence, but you want to be the best quarterback in the draft. You think you're the best quarterback in the draft. It's great to have that mindset. He says, I mean, you've always been kind of an outspoken dude. You've come out with your political stances. You've come out with your opinions on different things going around in our world, which is great. We know that our athletes aren't just there to play sports. They're not just there, if you want to do the basketball reference, like LeBron and Kobe said, you're not just there to dribble a basketball. You have a voice. You're on a certain platform to make things happen. So, yeah, Josh Rosen definitely has said that he wants to be the best quarterback in the draft. He is the best quarterback in the draft. He's the most polished QB talent. I actually do believe one of the things he did say is he is probably the best polished quarterback talent, pure quarterback talent in the NFL coming out in the draft. However, that doesn't mean you're number one pick material. I think he is not the durability enough. You're only as good as you are available on the field. You have to be on the field to play. You can't play when you're hurt, obviously. You can't play from the locker room. You can't play from the trader's table. You can't be the best quarterback. You can't win 6 Super Bowls if you're on the IR all the time. If you can't stay healthy, you can't be Sam Bradford, basically. I mean, you can make a lot of money, though. But continuing on, yeah, just Josh pump the brakes a little bit, buddy. You're going to probably have a great career because you can cross your fingers that Cleveland's not going to take you. You can cross your fingers that you'll go somewhere, maybe New York. Even the Jets, honestly, wouldn't be a bad place for you. Still be not the biggest stage because the Jets are still little brothers of the Giants, but if you play in a nice stadium like MetLife Stadium, you can drive the ball down the field. You probably can throw through the wind. You're going to have you'll probably have a couple weapons. You'll still have Robbie Anderson. You'll have some weapons on the outside. A little bit. And then the Jets defense, they usually can come around. I mean, they have Todd Bowles as a good defensive coach, and then you'll have a nice defense to back you up. And hopefully you won't have them on the field all the time. And then obviously, I think, Josh, you need to sit behind a quarterback. You can't start first right away. You don't want to start right away. Who's really, other than maybe Carson Wentz, who started right away in his first season as an NFL quarterback after being drafted and just lit the world on fire? Maybe Carson Wentz, and then it still took him to the second season to really break the ice. I mean, obviously he got hurt, unfortunately, but look at what happened to Jared Goff. You could say that's coaching. You could say that's experience. He needed to sit. He didn't sit but he played. But I mean, that second season makes a big difference when you sit behind a quarterback. Say he goes to New York. Like I've been saying, I wanted him to go to New York all along. I don't think he will go to New York because the Giants are probably going to take Bradley Chubb. They're not going to pick a quarterback because they just don't have the stones to do it. I think they have the media on their necks. David Gettleman in his first season as the Giants GM isn't going to want to put big splashes out there and put a quarterback like Josh Rosen behind Eli Manning, even though he should. We've gone over this multiple times on the show. The fact that he should put him behind Eli Manning and let Eli Manning tutor this guy and have a nice exchange of hands for your quarterback. I don't know why you don't want to do that. Eli Manning's 37 years old. Really, how many years does he have left? Yes, you trade Pierre-Paul to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but you can just get a quarterback. Get a quarterback. I don't understand. Do you you're in that second spot. What are you going to trade that back? You're not going to move it. You're going to stay there. You're going to pick basically Bradley Chubb, Saquon. Even though Saquon there's still reports out there that Saquon Barkley is going to get picked to number 1 overall by the Browns. Oh my goodness. Just continue on my rants for this segment about this NFL draft and how we're just getting so many cross signals. The fact that they're going to pick they're going to pick Darnold. They should pick Darnold. They haven't come out with their number 1 pick yet. They haven't decided which quarterback they like because they're going to keep it close to the chest. John Dorsey isn't stupid. He's not stupid. I mean, he's going to keep it close to the chest. He's going to probably field some calls. No one talked about it on Monday, the fact that you can get that maybe get a little call from little Bill Belichick over there in Foxborough in New England and get that first pick over to the Patriots and get a bounty of picks and maybe a Gronk as well for the Browns. And then obviously you still have the 4th pick. If you're Cleveland, you don't really need. I mean, if you give the Patriots that first pick, they take Sam Darnold. You could still get. You could still get Josh Rosen at the 4th pick. You don't know. The Jets are seemingly liking Baker Mayfield more than anybody else for some reason. Even though I think Baker Mayfield needs to be in an indoor stadium and he needs to be in a division where he's going to play a lot of games in warm weather. So whether that's in Arizona, pretty much, because everybody else has a quarterback right now. The Arizona Cardinals are pretty much the only one that is going to be looking to get somebody like that. Whether they're going to trade up, the Bills would be interesting. Seeing him run around up there in the bitter cold weather up in Buffalo, but no. The Jets are probably Jake Allen or Josh Rosen is where you're looking if you're the Jets. I think that's what we're talking about again still here. But Josh Rosen is coming out and saying, yes, I'm going to win all the Super Bowls. Yes, I'm going to be, if Brady wins 6, I'll win 7. Great confidence, buddy. Great confidence. Why don't we come around draft day? Why don't we get you to a mini camp? Why don't we get you to a rookie camp? Why don't we get you to training camp? Why don't we get you to the preseason. Let's get you through your first season as a quarterback, probably not even starting, going to be behind a starter, which you hope you are, because it's only going to make you better. Why would you? I mean, I know for these guys, they've been playing he's played at USC. He's a starter. He's a quarterback. He wants to jump on the bit. He wants to play. But if you are really in your right mind, you listen to all these talking heads, all these pundits, all these guys on the shows, all these experts or some so-called experts, even you have ex players as well talking about it. The fact that 1 season or 2 seasons or 3 seasons behind a starter only is going to help you. It's only going to help you. Look at these guys who are out there now. Look at Aaron Rodgers. What did he do? Sat behind Brett Favre. I mean, now he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Even Tom Brady didn't start right away. He only came in because of Drew Bledsoe getting injured. He didn't start right away. You have quarterbacks like Jameis Winston who had to start right away. I mean, unless you're Andrew Luck, basically. I mean, hopefully he can get healthy, Andrew. We're hoping. Here's hoping. But if you're Andrew Luck, really, you're going to start right away and be successful. I don't even think Russell Wilson started right away, and he definitely took his lumps as well. So I have made my case on that one. Marcus Mariota taking his lumps, started right away, taking his lumps, but he's also a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. Yeah, Baker won it too, but whatever. I'm not on the Baker train right now. I'm just interested to see where he's going to go more than seeing how he's going to play, because I think that's really going to dictate what happens in his NFL career for Baker Mayfield, which team is going to take the chance on him. For Josh Rosen, the other three, honestly, the other three are more safe picks, I feel, especially, I mean, just going off of all three of them have their pros and cons. I think Sam Darnold definitely has the least amount of cons and the most pros. Josh Allen has the pro, the fact that he has the big arm and the durability, the size. You can always work on touch and feel and accuracy with practice and quarterbacking coaches and what have you. Josh Rosen has all of that, but the durability is the question. Baker Mayfield, I don't know anything. I don't know where his pros and cons are. There's so many question marks with him. I mean, yes, it jumps off the page. The numbers he put up at Oklahoma jump off the page. But I don't know where he's going to be able to succeed. He's not tall enough. Can he have the pocket presence? Does he have the touch and be able to drive the ball down the field? Can he just emulate? If he can emulate Russell Wilson, great. If he's Russell Wilson 2.0 or even Russell Wilson light, diet Russell Wilson, however you want to say it, then he'll be a fine NFL quarterback. And if he plays in a system that will play to his strengths and will let him succeed and maybe even give him the time to develop as a backup for a couple years, then he can be a good quarterback. That's why I'm looking at Arizona. I'm going to say Arizona Cardinals right there. Baker Mayfield sitting there for you with a nice bow on his head. And if he drops to you, that'd be great. If you have to trade up and get him, do it. Because, I mean, even Sam Bradford has had that kind of coach's mentality. But even when he was injured last year, he was kind of like that second quarterback coach to Case Keenum. Case Keenum had a great year. Look at that. Now he's got a big contract in Denver. And then in regards to more of the draft, I mean, just continue on the draft talk here. We're talking the fact that they're picking Saquon Barkley to go first to the Browns. This is beside me. Maybe they think they need to get him immediately because he's going to be gone by the time they pick again. I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe the Giants take him, and then I guess the thought, I guess, for the Browns is if you want both a quarterback and Barkley, if you want both of them, then you can, and you don't have a definitive choice at quarterback, you'll pull a name out of the hat and you'll take whatever one you get, which I don't think is the best way to go at things, honestly, because quarterbacks are much more important than running backs when it comes to character and picking the one you actually have vetted and the one you actually want and the one you've actually seen a bunch of times. But yes, I understand that if you want Barkley and a quarterback, you take Barkley first. You put the pressure on the Giants to either pick Chubb or pick a quarterback, and then the Jets are going to take a quarterback, probably Baker Mayfield, and then you'll have whoever's left over at 4. Then again, if you take the quarterback at the first pick, then the Giants can do whatever they want, whether they take Barkley, Chubb, or quarterback doesn't matter. And then if you're the Browns, he could be gone. The Giants could have picked Chubb, Jets will pick quarterback, and then the Jets will pick Barkley. Giants will pick Barkley, Jets will pick quarterback, and then you'll be at 4. And you probably will take either one, whoever the Giants don't pick, whether it's Saquon or Bradley Chubb. So it's just interesting to see that we're still seeing these reports out that the Browns are considering Saquon Barkley at number 1. My thing for Saquon Barkley is I kind of hope he drops and goes to Denver. Him in Denver would be really cool, I think, because Case Keenum needs some help. Case Keenum needs a name behind him to take some pressure off him. He needs that fan base needs some more excitement. They got the defense to complement that offense, and they're looking for a bounce back year. And if they get that rookie running back who can take some pressure off of that quarterback in a new spot, who's also a veteran though, who can handle that team, handle that ball, handle the offense pretty well, and manage the game, but then also have an explosive running back to not only hand the ball off to, but throw the ball to out of the backfield. That would be a dynamic little duo there in Denver for Case Keenum. And then, but you never know. We don't know. Draft day, we're creeping closer and closer every day. Obviously, we're now just, I believe, 2.5 weeks away, if even that. We're 2 weeks away, basically. Tomorrow will be 2 weeks exactly till the draft, which means we'll have Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So 5-6 shows. And before that, we're going to just keep bringing you draft information here on the GSMC football show, the college football edition. So that's the way I'm talking about. The mesh point between college football and the NFL is this draft, this wonderful, wonderful draft that we continue to talk about and continue to discuss on a daily basis, because it's just, we don't know what's going to happen. These top 5 picks are just very, very interesting. And if you're the Browns, you're officially on the clock, or they've been on the clock. I think the Giants are honestly on the clock right now, because the Browns, they should just take Sam Darnold. And after seeing his pro day, I've seen a lot of analysts saying the Giants are pretty much on the clock right now because the Browns are taking Sam Darnold. But they have not announced that yet because they still don't want to give away their secrets, which I don't blame them for. So that'll wrap it up for the first segment. We talked a lot about quarterbacks and draft again. Josh Rosen had some comments saying that he is going to be the best quarterback coming out of this draft, and he's going to win 6 Super Bowls if Brady wins 7. Or if Brady wins 6, he'll win 7. Yeah. Get to training camp. Get a team. Find out who your coach is going to be. Find out who you got on the outside. Find out who you got some weapons. I know you're not a one-man team, buddy. We'll see where you end up. And we're going to talk about some more stuff going around the spring football when we get back, and some real college football nitty-gritty stuff when we get back. All right? Back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Oh, welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. This is the college football edition for all your college football news and updates and highlights. We talk about all the different college football news you want to hear about, all that stuff, all that good stuff from the SEC, the ACC, Big 10, Pac-12, Big 12, everything. Everything. Even Louisville, which doesn't play in any of those conferences. All right, this segment I talked about in our little preview in the beginning of the show. We were going to go over Clemson and the fact that they're trying to make we're going to call Clemson the Avengers this year. The Clemson Avengers. I know they're the Tigers. There's so many Tigers. How many Tigers teams are there? Auburn Tigers, Missouri Tigers. I think the SEC has like there's 2 or 3 Tigers teams. I think I just said both of them. And then the SEC has oh no, there's 3. There's 3 in the SEC. LSU Tigers, Auburn Tigers, and the Missouri Tigers. That's just ridiculous. Get some new names, people. No, you can't do it. The 2 schools are too old. Okay. So, Clemson, Tigers. ACC, though, not SEC. They are going to be bringing back what is arguably the best defensive line in college football from last year. A team that got, a defensive unit that got the team to the number 1 ranking in the college football playoff. However, they could not get over the top of Alabama after getting off to a kind of a rough start. Alabama's defense kind of just shut down their offense, and the defense was on the field way too much, and eventually Jalen Hurts was able to burn them for a few scores to get that 24-6 victory over the Clemson Tigers last season. But with Dabo Swinney, you can't ever count anybody out. They're always going to bounce back. I talked about last show that they're definitely going to be considering some changes at quarterback. I think Kelly Bryant is the guy who they probably still want to be in quarterback. Did not have the best game, obviously, against Alabama with that defense. But there's definitely some interesting things going on on that quarterback discussion for Dabo Swinney when he's got to decide if he wants to bring in that young sophomore or keep the veteran. Well, I mean, there's not really veterans in college football, but the upperclassmen. That's what they're called, upperclassmen in Kelly Bryant, returning starter for the Tigers. But we're talking about defense, and then this is interesting because they had 3 defensive linemen who could have. One of them could have definitely applied for gone to the draft. Christian Wilkins. He's going to be going to stay on that defensive line with that young talent he's got there, and he's going to be that leader of a good young group in Clemson to be getting that team back to the promised land they want to get to, that they had not last season but the season before, where they were able to vanquish Alabama and take that college football playoff title. However, we do have there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of stuff to deal with when you're a Clemson team. Obviously, they are the kings of the ACC. You got Dabo Swinney, but you got these defensive linemen that all want to stay together. I mean, these guys have been in a group, and that's what the problem with college football is. When you have guys like this in a group, you have guys getting they get very singular, and it looks like Christian Wilkins is not going to be very singular. He's going to take ownership. That's what Dabo Swinney's calling it. He's calling it ownership. And this guy Wilkins, 6'4", 300-pound lineman, is going to be not just being singular. He's not going to be selfish. He's not going to be like, oh, I'm going to do me and go to the NFL draft, because that's the thing about the NFL draft. It's kind of you got to pick your time, you got to pick your moments. So obviously you're going to be you've been a highly touted prospect your whole life. You do want to stay healthy, and that's the thing. That's why you see guys go to the draft now early, because they pop 1 year. They get up and their draft stock shoots right way up. They got to make a jump, because they can't. It's a gamble. Going back another season is a gamble, because you're just basically saying, I don't want to use this. I mean, there are some guys where obviously if your draft stock pops way up, you have to take the advantage. The gamble is almost too much of a gamble. But for a guy like Christian Wilkins coming back another season, I couldn't say that's too much of a gamble, because he's going to be having 2 young guys with Austin Bryant and Clelin Ferrell on the outside of him, those young defensive ends on the outside of the defensive tackle. So he's not making that much of a gamble, as it looks like they're all going to help each other out and make themselves look pretty good for next year's draft. But what I talk about is injury, and you got to be able to take that advantage of that moment, because you were basically, if you get hurt, you're kind of done and lost to those NFL scouts and those NFL teams when it comes to drafting, because the last thing they're going to do is draft damaged goods. So, we don't like talking about injury on this show much at all, but when you're talking about a player who's going to be not forgoing his final seasons like most do, and go to the drafts, he's going to be sticking around to play his. I think he's going to be either a junior or senior, coming back to play his upperclassman years at Clemson, and either like maybe the thing is it's a gamble because you could always raise your draft stock. He can come out next year and be a top 10 or a top 5 defensive lineman, and get picked up in the first round. You never know. So, I mean, he's definitely a guy who could do that because this Clemson defense is going to make him look pretty good. And, I mean, when you have a team like that, you don't really want to shy away from it. You don't want to be the guys like, oh no, I'm too big for this team. I want to go to the NFL and take care of myself. Even though, I mean, you aren't taking care of yourself. The whole point of the reason why these guys, like I talked about earlier, they leave for the NFL is because the marketability and the ability to sell themselves is at the highest point possible. They want to be able to be financially soluble to make some money for them and for their families, likely. And when they're in college, they can't. Obviously, I can go back on my soapbox and talk about how college players could be paid. We'd probably see a lot more Christian Wilkins being out there, staying the whole time. We'll probably see less busts in the NFL. We'll probably see guys who are staying in college longer and getting more reps at the college level, and then we're going to have better NFL players because they're going to have some incentive to stay at school and not leave too early before they're not fully developed. Of players, if they get some sort of payment, or if their parents or somebody can get some sort of financial stipend for what they're doing, because I mean, yes, they're getting free education, but that's just a vehicle to get them to the school to play football, basically, for that school, to make money for that school. They're like, okay, what's the cost advantage of this guy coming to our school? Okay, $150,000 in salary. He's going to make us $1 million in marketing ability of this team. I mean, it's ridiculous. You subtract, especially high-profile players like a defensive tackle, where you have a team like Clemson, who is known for their prowess on defense. This guy is on TV. He's going to be on camera because whenever he gets a sack, the camera zeroes right in on him. So yeah, your $150. Well, I mean, Clemson, yeah, private school. So I'll up it to $200,000 a year, $50,000 a semester. So $200,000 for 4 years, max. For Clemson, because it's a private school, but that's just one school. We're saying college football players are being paid in education. I talked about the fact that we've already had the paper classes, the fact that they're not getting a real education. They're too busy to have a real education. They're basically professional football players, especially in these big conferences like the ACC and the SEC, where they have their own networks. I mean, you have NFL Network. There's an SEC Network. It's the same thing. Basically the same thing. They just talk about SEC sports, mostly football, all the time. Football is the moneymaker. It's the cash cow for college athletics. I mean, we already know that the NCAA is pretty downright corrupt in the fact that they are having a lot of we're getting on the call. I mean, this is like when we're kind of transferring over the college football to college basketball a little bit here with this whole paying players to come to certain schools. I mean, we already saw DeAndre Ayton getting paid, or apparently getting paid $100,000 to come to Arizona instead of going to Kansas. So why, we don't know. That could be happening in football. We have these guys who get offers from Alabama, Florida State, Texas A&M. I mean, we talked about I think on the other show that one of the top 5 recruits is going to in the nation overall is going to Texas, and he had 4 other schools that could have been easy picks for him to go to school. So I mean, it's just really interesting to see how we have now. It's good to see that we have players coming back for their next seasons. But yeah, the linebacker going to Texas, Floyd. That's what I was talking about before. But it's good to see these guys coming back to shore up these defenses, give Clemson a chance to make another run, take some pressure off that offense that is definitely having has some question marks around it, with the fact that we're already talking about that maybe Kelly Bryant might not be the starter this coming season. Spring football is upon us, and they're using that. Looks like Dabo Swinney is using that as a little bit of a tryout coming into the summer, and then we're gonna be going into training camp and to workouts before the season gets started. And obviously now spring football is even more important for these colleges, especially for coaches, to get a glimpse of what their team might look like coming in the fall, because there's more and more rules about what kind of practices you can have, come fall, come before season, how many practices you can do. I mean, the NFL got rid of double days. The college got rid of it. You can't put pads on till so many weeks before the first game. So it's really, you have to be able to use these spring football practices, these spring football programs, the scrimmages, all these things to kind of get a gauge, so you can get a head start on what you're going to be looking at in the fall. And a lot of guys now, especially with freshmen, because you think, oh, what about the freshmen coming next year? They're still in high school. They're going to be coming to the school for the first time in August. Well, there's actually a lot of them who decide, especially the ones who have already committed, when they committed their junior year of high school, they decide to graduate high school early in December. I mean, I even saw it from my high school. I went to high school with Jake Browning up at Washington. He was committed to Washington at the end of his junior year of high school. Took an accelerated course over the summer or over the next fall, and was able to get his stuff figured out before December, before that semester was over, and graduate in that December semester, and then go to Seattle and go play in spring football for Washington. That just the very next semester. I mean, he should have been a senior still. So, I mean, you're seeing that all across the country, and especially with these big skill positions like quarterback. So, I mean, you know, that's what spring football is becoming more and more and more and more and more and more important, because of the fact that you have a limited time to gauge your roster and gauge your players, because you got a lot of players. I mean, you're a college football coach. You've seen these guys since you've been recruiting them all along. You've seen them a lot in practice throughout their high school careers. You've seen them a lot throughout in games throughout their high school careers. That's the reason why you recruited them. But there's nothing like getting them actually in the speed every time you up a level of competition, whether it's going from high school to college football or college football to NFL. The speed of the game just gets that much faster. It's so much faster, quick, faster, bigger guys, faster guys. I mean, you got 300-pound linemen running 4.6, 4.7 40s. I mean, these guys are quick. So spring football becoming more and more important as we go along with these rule changes now. All right, so we're coming at the end of the second segment. We talked a lot about the fact that we're going to have a similar, if not the same, defensive line at Clemson, and the fact that we had Christian Wilkins stay instead of Claire for the draft, and gamble on himself to be able to get into that talk for the college football playoff again this season, and maybe get by that semifinal game like they did 2 seasons ago. And win the national championship once again for Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers. All right, next segment, we're going to go over some new faces. We have some information about Alabama and Tua. We're calling him Tua. I already decided that. We're calling him Tua. And then Jimbo Fisher came out and had his first real press conference and interview at Texas A&M, talking about the challenges that he faces over there in College Station in his first season. All right, we'll be right back with all of that.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. This is the College Football Edition. We're talking college football here at the GSMC Podcast Network. Third segment, we're talking more Crimson Tide and some news coming out of Tuscaloosa in their spring practice. Tua Tagovailoa, there we go. I can say it. What a name. I like that name. That's a cool name. But Tua is actually, we have reports now that Tua is starting to throw, as he had that hand injury coming through spring football, and he's going to be throwing now at practice. And we have there was also reports the fact that they have a quarterback controversy. Who's Saban going to start with this season? Some of it's been put to rest by some. There's some writers out there who've been put that to rest, or some guys who are like, oh no, we like Jalen Hurts, okay, or just want to keep the controversy going to get clickbait or something. But I'm just going to say it now. Tua won that battle last year. The fact that he can not last year, but last game, the last game of the season, in the national championship. The national championship of all games, he won the job after being thrusted into service after Jalen Hurts was not cutting it in the first half. They were talking about it. You can hear Kirk Herbstreit on the broadcast talking about, what's going to happen? What's Nick going to do? Is he could put in Tua? What's he going to do? Oh, there's Tua. Okay, he's playing. So it looks like he's coming back from that hand injury, going to be all right. So he's definitely I think he's the leader in the clubhouse. The Alabama team did go to the White House today, or yesterday actually, to see the president and get a congratulatory little hello from him for winning the national title game last year. I know there's been some stuff about the fact, people going, everybody going or not, but definitely a cool sight. Cool sight for them to be able to go to the White House and see those players. When you're a college player, it may be your only chance to get over there, unless you get drafted. And if you get drafted and go play for a team that wins the Super Bowl, but as a national championship team, get to go to the White House. That's pretty fun. So, more about Tua though. There are pictures all over the place about the fact that even at the White House, you have trainers taking. There was a picture posted. You have trainers looking at Tua's hand. You remember the lefty did have that hand injury, and looks like that he's going to be all right. He did have the first practice of spring was when he injured his hand. So they're taking him lightly, obviously, and then I think they're going to get him back in throwing the ball. So I have reports saying that he is throwing today, of all days, the day they get back from the White House. They're having Tua throw. So lots of stuff to talk about with Crimson Tide. Always, they're going to be coming back. Alabama. The thing about Alabama is you never can count them out. Nick Saban's going to have them going every year. Like we talk about all these controversies and stuff. They're going to find a guy. You're going to get a guy like Tua coming over from Hawaii, a long trek over from Hawaii to play in Tuscaloosa. They're going to have a big running back, like Bo Scarborough. You gotta love some Bo Scarborough. Is he coming out? I didn't even talk about him. If he's coming out in the draft, or he's going to be going back to play another year. If he's going back to play another year, watch out. SEC, Bo Scarborough. I've always been a Bo Scarborough fan, and he looked all right in the national championship game. But he's gonna be coming back, as he is only, I believe, like a freshman. I think he was a freshman last year, or he's gonna be a junior coming in this season. So he's a sophomore. Definitely a guy to be looking at for Alabama, as he's a good running back and be given to a little dynamic duo back there in the backfield for the Crimson Tide. He has been deemed definitely the scariest running back in the SEC in college football. Complete. I wouldn't call him that, because there's a guy named Bryce Love playing over in Palo Alto for Stanford, and he's pretty darn good. But no, that's just two different types of running backs. I understand that, because Bo Scarborough is a bruiser. That guy, he's got the speed and he's got the power to get through the blocks. But then you have Bryce Love, who's just can shake anybody out of their cleats. He can just turn on a dime, change direction, cut like none other. I don't think even Bo Scarborough could do like that. He's more of a power guy, where he's going to break your tackles versus breaking your ankles. So definitely lots to think about when if you're an Alabama fan. if you are a diehard Alabama fan, you're probably like, oh, what's going on with Tua's hand? He's fine. He looks like he's throwing today. And I think that quarterback controversy can pretty much be put to rest because he looks like he's going to be throwing at practice today as they come back from D.C. and back to Tuscaloosa to get their spring football practice get going back and playing. So he says that he's throwing some passes, so it's going to be. He did break a bone in his hand last week, and I don't think they're going to be having any surgery or anything. But he's just going to be throwing getting the grip on the football and executing handoffs. But that's the thing on the quarterback. You got to have some good hands. That's the thing about the draft stock people, or the people that draft stock people, but the draft evaluation people who evaluate quarterbacks and such. They always talk about hand size. That's why Josh Allen, I think, is getting up there in the draft boards because everybody loves his hand size and the fact that he can grip that football almost all. I mean, he's got a good grip on the football and can hold it. It is a big deal because you're touching the ball every play, and whether it's from under center or in the shotgun, you can definitely get some interesting things happening if you have small hands with some butterfingers, or whether it's some bad handoffs or having footballs slip out of your hands easily on a strip sack attempt. You got to be able to have that strong football. I've never seen. I think Aaron Rodgers. Let's talk about. If you want to just talk about quickly about strong hands, I think I've seen Aaron Rodgers literally throw the ball or come through like he's going to throw the ball, get hit, and he was coming forward with the ball and then didn't let go of the ball. Like it just was stuck to his hand because he had such a good grip on the ball. Instead of releasing the ball and throwing a possible interception or being called for a fumble, he just was able to hold the ball all the way through after he got absolutely blasted. Like, how did he not fumble that ball? We see guys get tripped all the time, whether it's just the ball getting bad out of his hand or it's just basically based off the force of the blow. But I know, you got to have some hand size, and Tua's got to be able to grip that ball if he's going to be able to cement himself as a starter for the Alabama Crimson Tide. I mean, he didn't start a game last season as that true freshman, but he's going to be coming back as true sophomore, as they called the rising sophomore. He's made a nice recovery and is going to be just fine after breaking a bone in his hand last week, looking like it's going to heal nicely and get back in there. But Jalen Hurts, he's going to be competing with him. Like I said, not much of a competition. I think Tua kind of won that kind of competition in January in Atlanta at the national championship game. Jalen Hurts isn't really. I don't think he's really that quarterback type. He's almost like Bo Scarborough running the football. Looks like they got the power action with the ball. I mean, yeah, you can throw him in there for like a quarterback run or quarterback draw play. I mean, it would be kind of obvious, but he can throw it too. So it kind of would put the defense in a little bit of a interesting dilemma there. So they're going to probably use both quarterbacks this year as anybody could. That's kind of how college football kind of works. You can do a quarterback tandem and run, maybe go 70-30 with Tua and Jalen Hurts on that 30% of the time, just coming in there to mix up the defense, give a different look, because Tua does throw left-handed when Jalen Hurts throws right-handed. So, I mean, if you're a receiver, actually, you got to be very wary, because when you're catching the ball from a left-handed receiver, it has obviously an opposite spin from a right-handed receiver, so the ball kind of has a different tail to it when you're catching the ball. So you got to definitely be wary of that and see what Nicky Nick decides to do coming up this season. Obviously, he's calling it a competition. Some people are saying it's the toughest decision he's ever made as a coach there at Alabama, having to decide the quarterback for this coming season. I think the Tua won the job, and he definitely won the job in January at that game. So winning that game, coming back over Georgia, coming in cold. Imagine that. A freshman quarterback coming in cold to a game, and on the biggest stage, the biggest game of the year, and this just took it over and won that game for the Crimson Tide. So that's just what I think, though. I'm just here talking to you guys through these little airwaves. That's what I think, and that's what I think a lot of other people think, honestly. So I'm not alone here, even though I don't care. I'll be alone. I'm not worried. I'll do some hot takes. We'll have some hot takes on this show for sure. But I don't think the fact that Tua Tua being deemed a starter at Alabama is really can be said as deemed a hot take, because a lot of people have been saying that. And the fact that Jalen Hurts is just, I don't know, not really your prototypical quarterback. He's done fine. He's got the Crimson Tide through the season, but I mean, did take the loss in the national championship game against Clemson the season before, even though that was a pretty nice game, high scoring game. Definitely, both offenses can't really be faulted on either of that, as the fact that Clemson did march down the field and Deshaun Watson was able to get that touchdown in the final seconds of that game. But we all know about that. That was a couple of years ago. So, Tua looking like he's going to be getting back into practice. He's going to be throwing this week now after breaking the bone. So it looks like that he's going to be just fine. He broke it a couple weeks ago and is going to be healing nicely, and looking like he's going to be being able to hold off Jalen Hurts and grab that starting job in Tuscaloosa. All right, so in the last segment, we're going to talk about some more stuff regarding your college football world. Let's see if we'll bounce around, talk about maybe some transfers, some different new faces and new places, some different adjustments regarding maybe even apparel changes for some teams. We don't know. There's lots of stuff going on, even in this college football world that's kind of on draft mode right now, if you could say, or in spring football / draft mode here in mid-early April. Here at the GSMC Podcast Network, I'm Tom Doherty. We'll come back with the final segment of this football edition, or college football edition of the football show, in just a moment.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC College Football Podcast. We talked a lot today about your college football world, especially Alabama. We talked about the draft. We talked about Josh Rosen. I mean, the thing about the draft, we're going to do another little draft bit here, because it's just so compelling. I see more and more. Just everybody's got an opinion about. We have all our draft gurus. We got our Todd McShays, our Mel Kipers, even ESPN's got like 4 of them. You've got Louis Riddick out there talking about stuff. The fact that Baker Mayfield could be the most talented or best pro coming out of this draft. I mean, I don't know. I think all of them need a year or two. I think the only reason Sam Darnold might be the leader in the clubhouse, we'll use the golf analogy for that one. The leader in the clubhouse at this point is because he might be the one who can start without time on the bench or behind on their quarterback immediately and have the most success without a little bit of grooming. Everybody else could use some grooming, but no, yeah. Baker I think that's why the Browns are still sitting on Barkley at number 1, because if they want that running back, even though they signed Carlos Hyde and they have Duke Johnson, but they could get Saquon Barkley at 1 and then just figure out, just let the Giants and the Jets do whatever they're going to do, whether it's the Giants pick Bradley Chubb, which they probably will. They probably won't pick a quarterback. But Bradley Chubb would be a nice pick for them, honestly. It would really solidify their defense. And then they could just find a quarterback next year. We'll see if there's the same. I mean, this is not, I would say unprecedented. Yeah, it's probably unprecedented. The fact that we have 4 quarterbacks like this coming out who are so tightly bunched in their evaluations. I mean, everybody, like I talked about, have their pros and cons. I talked about that in the first segment. But But yeah, and it looks like even Josh Allen is getting some love, and then obviously Baker Mayfield won the Heisman Trophy for a reason, and he's going to be getting some love as well. So we do have to talk about that and the fact that we do have there's always question marks. There's always going to be question marks. We're never going to know. We're going to wait till draft day. That's why the NFL draft is great. That's why they're going to that's why they have now the draft they're having it in a big massive stadium down there in Dallas or in Arlington, at Jerry World, and we have the first round is only one. The first day of the draft is just the first round. So I think, and then we'll obviously see throughout the first 5 or 6 picks, and then see if we'll still have any quarterbacks, one of those top 4 quarterbacks still on the board. I think one of them is going to drop. That'd be crazy if all 4 of them get picked in the first 5. I mean, it absolutely could. It absolutely could. That means the Browns, Giants, Jets, and Broncos all pick a quarterback, and the Browns obviously wouldn't pick 2 quarterbacks. So the Browns would get whoever they want at 4, whether it's Chubb or Barkley. If the Giants do pick a quarterback and the Browns take Darnold first, we've gone through a couple mock drafts on the show a few times. I could do a new mock draft now just by seeing what I've seen on reports with. You could put Bradley Chubb first. I mean, you could put Barkley number 1, Chubb number 2. You can even put Mayfield being the first, having Mayfield be the first quarterback being picked. And then if you're the Browns, you still can get Josh Rosen or make that Sam Darnold at 4, and then Josh Rosen goes to either the Bills trade up and get him, or the Cardinals trade up and get him, or he just drops down to where they are now. And same thing with Josh Allen. Baker Mayfield probably going to the Jets because they really like him. I mean, Baker Mayfield on the Jets would not be a bad little pick there, I wouldn't say. I just like the fact I like him in an indoor stadium for his size and his ability. I mean, if you look at Drew Brees playing in an indoor stadium, you have Russell Wilson. Those are the 2 comparable guys regarding size, and Russell Wilson's more of a better comp because he just runs around more, just like Mayfield does. But Russell throws in the pocket a lot more, and this is kind of what Mayfield needs to do as well. And he plays in Seattle. Yes, it does rain there, but if you look at that stadium, it's pretty closed off from the wind. There's not much wind in that stadium. It's pretty calm. They play a lot of games during the day when it doesn't rain. And then they also play in the NFC West, where you're going to have a game in Arizona, a game in L.A. now, and a game in Santa Clara. So not much weather problems there, I would say. So you're going to have you're going to have 11 of your games on the West Coast right there, all boom, boom, boom. So I wouldn't be really worried about it. If you can't really put that tag on Russell Wilson as a guy who has to deal with a lot of weather problems. So that's why I think that if you're looking at his comps and the kind of quarterback that he is, a cold weather stadium like MetLife Stadium with a lot of wind swirling around might not be the best idea for Baker Mayfield, but that's just the wind conditions. You're not just playing the weather; you're playing the teams you're matched up against, and then the thing is about going to the Jets. I feel like Baker he had Lincoln Riley. He had Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. It's such an offensive wizard. I mean, a great guy to come up behind Bob Stoops after he left. If you go to the Jets, you're going to get Todd Bowles. And then I couldn't even tell you who the offensive coordinator for the Jets is. So if you're Baker Mayfield, wouldn't you want to go to a team that has a more offensive name attached to it? I think the Giants, if they're going to pick a quarterback, they like Rosen. But, Mayfield could also be on their board. And Pat Shurmur would be a better name for him because offensive guy. If you're Baker Mayfield going to the Broncos, dropping to 5, going to the Broncos, you do have to deal with weather there, but you're way up in the altitude and you get a little more push on your ball. That's why I think Case Keenum going to Denver is actually pretty cool, pretty interesting because he can't throw the ball very far. And being at the altitude or the elevation, it's elevation. Elevation is the correct word. If you're at the altitude, I keep saying elevation that you are at in Denver, mile high, your ball will fly a little further for those deep balls for Case Keenum. So he could definitely we'll see how he does there coming up this season. That's NFL, though. We're going to college football show. So Baker to the Browns. Interesting pick. I like Saquon to the Browns. That's just what I like, though. If we're going to continue going what probably might probably happen or different ways goes, I can make 3 different mock drafts for you right now. With the top 5 picks, maybe even 6, with trades in there as well, because I think Arizona's still going to trade down or trade up to get a quarterback, whether it's Rosen or Allen or Mayfield. I think Sam Darnold will be gone before then. Or the Bills can do the same thing too. Bills, I think, are at 12 right now. They've already made a trade to get to 12, but they can even go further up and get up. Maybe they trade with the Colts and get to 6, even though I think the Colts want to stick at 6 because I think the Colts want to get Quentin Nelson, which would be a great pick for them to get nice safety at some offensive line protection for Andrew Luck coming back from that injury, as he did not play at all last season. But now Quentin Nelson at 6 is, I think that the Colts need to sit right there and just let that pick happen, unless obviously they think that the Broncos are going to do some funny business and take Quentin Nelson for themselves. But I think the Broncos, if they get a chance, are they going to pick a quarterback, or if Saquon drops, they're going to get Saquon because they're good on defense. They're good on. Their offensive line is pretty decent, so they need to get some weapons on the outside, because I don't think Devin Booker and C.J. Anderson are quite cutting it at the running back position, and having Saquon Barkley there to complement Case Keenum would be a nice little tandem in the backfield. Take some heat off of Case Keenum, putting a big name like Saquon Barkley, and kind of taking, because he's getting all the attention now, being that free agent signing coming over from Minnesota. So yeah, that's why I'm thinking there in the draft. As I keep thinking about it all the time. The draft, this stuff it's an everyday stuff, people. We're getting these reports out that different teams like different players and all this stuff that's going around these different players. So it's just interesting the fact that they just have to keep making this is very fluid here at the end of this, as we come down to the end of this run to the NFL draft, and all these players. You see Josh Rosen already speaking out and saying that what do you think Josh Rosen's trying to do there? Honestly, what is Josh Rosen trying to do with these comments? He's coming out. Obviously, he's getting attacked. He's not getting it. I wouldn't say he's getting attacked. Jim Mora, actually, I like this. These comments from Jim Mora are great. He's not his coach anymore. He's not even the coach at UCLA. He's probably looking for a job as a TV guy, which he probably would be great at. Because you look at his comments about Rosen, he doesn't have to be a homer. Be real. Tell him how it is. He already came out a few weeks ago saying that no, Josh might not be the best quarterback in this draft. But then he gets flack for it, and he comes out again and has to say, "Oh yeah, no, he might not be the best quarterback. He's the best player." I meant he's the best player, which means he's the best. Like that would then encompass the best quarterback in that as well. So he's going back on what he said before. But why would you? He's only doing that because he got a bunch of crap for it. So I don't really understand why he had to come back on his words when he's just been critical of him this whole time, and saying that he needs to have good. He needs to be has attention being grabbed. He needs to have stuff in front of him. He doesn't want to don't let him get bored. He's a good he's a great quarterback. He's a great talent, but he might not be the best quarterback in this draft. Probably meaning that he thinks Sam Darnold is just a tad better than him, even though Rosen could have more of the quarterback footwork and all that stuff down better. Rosen, when Darnold has all the other intangibles, like that quote-unquote it factor that we all can either believe or not believe. I'm still on the fence about that, but Darnold is more durable. He seems to have a better thirst and love for the game. Rosen has a lot of different stuff he likes to do, coming from a family where he was a tennis player for a while, and then eventually found out he was good. He was one of those kids that kind of like, I'm good at this, so I'll just do it, versus Sam Darnold was like, I love football. I'm playing football. I'm going to be the best player I possibly can be at football because I love this game so much. Versus Rosen, I kind of think that he was just kind of thrown in. He kind of just said, I'm good. I'm pretty good at this. Let's keep going. Which is, that's how a lot of guys probably go that's the difference between two players. You have grinders and you have gifteds. I mean, and I think Sam Darnold is gifted as well as he is a grinder versus I think Josh Rosen is kind of more of that gifted player where he's kind of letting his talent take him to the top. Where, I mean, he likes to come out and make these comments saying that I'm the best quarterback in the draft. I'm going to win 6 Super Bowls. If Brady wins 7, I'm going to win, or 6, I'm going to win 7. So it's all mumbo jumbo. Whether, he's trying to push teams in his direction. Oh, this guy is confident. Let's draft him. This guy has goals. Let's draft him. I mean, that's all great qualities in a quarterback, but he definitely needs to have some time sitting on the sidelines and getting some time behind a starter, whether it's Eli Manning, whether it's Sam Bradford in Arizona, which would be a cool little pick, actually, if Arizona can get up high enough to get Rosen, or it's, who would even be for the Jets? Josh McCown for the Jets? I guess so. But Jets are definitely drafting quarterback. If there's one team the Browns and the Jets are definitely drafting a quarterback. The Giants, we're not sure. The Broncos, we're not sure. So, I mean, there's 4 guys out there. The Arizona Cardinals are definitely drafting a quarterback, and the Bills are most likely drafting a quarterback as well. So those are the 4 teams that are definitely drafting a quarterback, but which ones will they get? And we're going to keep speculating. We're going to keep talking about it here on this college football show because these guys are still college players. And until their names are announced by Roger Goodell on that stage in Dallas in 2 weeks from tomorrow, they're still college players. And I can still talk about them to ad nauseam on this show and try and speculate which team is going to pick them and how they're trying to best improve their draft stock through whether it's goodwill campaigns or going out and telling everybody, the media, that you're the best quarterback in the draft. All right. So we're getting to the close of the show. Just a little recap of what we talked about today. We went over Josh Rosen a lot and the draft in general. I kind of gave another little what the scenarios of what could happen in the first round, what the Browns could do. And then we talked a little about Alabama and the Tua injury and the fact that he's already kind of taken over that spot as a quarterback, being that top tier guy coming from Hawaii and taking over and winning that national championship game. And then we also talked about the idea of, it's kind of just extrapolated off the story that we're having this Clemson defensive line come back and play again together with Christian Wilkins coming back to play with those 2 younger defensive ends to solidify that line at Clemson instead of having him declare for the draft. And that kind of led me to talking more about how these players are having to gamble themselves and come back and try and improve their draft stocks, or they just decide, okay, this is as good as it's going to get. I'm going to leave college and go try and make some money for my family and for myself. All right. So that's the end of the show. We're going to come back on Friday and talk some more. Maybe Josh Rosen will have some more for us to talk about. And until then, everybody enjoy your spring football. We're looking forward to the draft, and we'll see you on Friday.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.